Howdy, gang, and welcome once again to the Duct Tape Studios. I'm Jeff McAleer, your host here at the Gaming Gang channel. Thanks for joining me once again. Before I dive on into today's review, do want to remind you if you enjoy the Gaming Gang and would like to support the outlet, you can do so in a couple of ways. First, by making a one-time donation by way of PayPal, or by becoming a monthly member of our Patreon. And you'll find links to those in the show notes. Also, down in those show notes, you'll find an invite link to our Discord server. Be sure to hang with the gang over on Discord. Today, I'll be sharing my review of the One Ring starter set, Overhill and Underhill from Free League Publishing. This box set is available now. It carries an MSRP of $29.99, which will include the PDF if you order from Free League Publishing. Or if you want to just grab the PDF alone, you can do so over at DriveThruRPG for $14.99. In the show notes, you'll find a link to Free League Publishing as well as the PDF over at DriveThruRPG. Having said all that, let's swing out over to the other camera because here I've got the starter set for the One Ring. A few things to mention before we get stuck in. First of all, my friends over at Free League Publishing were kind enough to provide me this review copy, but neither I nor anyone else affiliated with the Gaming Gang has received any other sort of compensation for me to share this review with you. It's important you know that. We're also not going to look at each and every page of the booklets inside or the pre-gens and such, but I do want to give you a really good feel for what you're going to find inside this box. And then, of course, there is an introductory adventure, which is included with the starter set. So if you're a player and your lore master, your game master in the case of the One Ring, has picked this up, maybe they just haven't started running it yet, or maybe they're talking about picking this up, there are going to be some spoilers. So you have been warned. All right, so let's take a peek what's inside this box. First off, we have got custom dice, and we'll get 6 success dice. These are 6-sided dice. They're all numbered 1 through 6. The 6 also has a little rune on it, which designates a special success. And then we'll have a couple of feat dice. These are 12-sided dice. They are numbered 1 through 10, and then they have a couple of runes. One face is the Gandalf rune, and the other face is the Eye of Sauron rune. Really nice dice. These are cut dice as well. I should also mention, if you wanted to buy these separately, they carry an MSRP of $22.50. So this starter set box is packed with value because its MSRP is $29.99. We also have some stands because we have some cardboard standees for our pre-generated characters as well as adversaries. We get a sheet that tells us what's in the box. I should mention, just this past week, I shared a pretty in-depth unboxing and first look at this starter set. So if you want to get a fairly detailed, in-depth look at what's in this box, by all means, I definitely recommend take a peek at that video too. So we got 5 pre-generated characters. So we've got our character sheet. And on the other side, we've got some really nice line art as well as a background on that character. We're actually going to use this character sheet as some examples for how you play the One Ring. So we'll get back to that. We've got standees. So we have got our pre-generated characters as well as our adversaries. Now, these are not front back. These are left right, but they are dual-sided. So that's nice right there. We have a dual-sided map. One is the region that the adventure is taking place in. In fact, we have some other releases from Free League Publishing that take place in Eriador. So here we've got that, really nice looking. And then we have our combat stance map, because in the One Ring, we have combat stances. So we have forward, open, defensive, as well as rearward. This is where you would put your standees to indicate what their combat stance is. And then our adversaries would be in this outer ring here. So nice paper stock on this map as well. We get a couple of booklets. One is our rules, the other is our adventure. So let's take a peek at the rules. This clocks in at 24 pages, I believe. If you're not overly familiar with the One Ring, it is a fantasy role-playing game that is set in the world of Middle-earth. So, of course, J.R.R. Tolkien's world. So if you are a fan of The Hobbit, The Lord of the Rings, Silmarillion, and such, this should really appeal to you. Now, the One Ring is fairly rules light. There is also the Lord of the Rings role-playing. It has a starter set, also Overhill and Underhill. So if you are very familiar with 5e mechanics, that might be the direction you want to go into if you want to role-play in the world of Middle-earth. Myself personally, I like the mechanics for the One Ring. I don't mind it being relatively rules light, fairly abstract, because I'm always more about the storytelling, the adventure itself, not necessarily rolling a bunch of dice all the time. So this is going to give you all the basics that players and lore masters will need to introduce themselves to the One Ring. Now, this is the second edition of the One Ring, and this is the second starter set, actually, that we have had for the One Ring. This core book here, well, I shouldn't say core book. This rules booklet is new. So this is a redesigned starter set rules booklet, and it really does cover all the highlights of the One Ring. Now, of course, obviously enough, the hardcover core rulebook is going to go into a whole lot more detail about the various different aspects of the game, advice on how to run adventures in Middle-earth and so forth. But the 24 pages here, it's got a lot of good info packed into it. Really does. If you're curious about how the One Ring plays mechanically, let's take a look at this character sheet once again. We're going to have 3 core attributes. We've got strength, heart, and wits. So we are going to have a rating for each, and then we will have a target number for each. And essentially, the target number is going to be the rating subtracted from 20. So here, strength is a rating of 6, so our target number is 14. Heart is 5, target number 15. Wits is 4, target number 16. Now, these attributes are pretty broad. So strength isn't only physical strength. It is endurance, it is stamina and such. Heart is more your wisdom and your drive. And then wits is not only intelligence, but it's how intuitive you are and things like that. We also have 18 different skills, 6 in each attribute. So we will have these different diamonds that you fill in to show the proficiency of that character with those skills. And then you'll also notice we have these boxes along the left. If these are filled in, that means that it is a favored skill of the character. It's something that that character really is focused on as far as their adventuring, their skills. So as far as action resolution, of course, the lore master is only going to call for a roll if there's some chance of failure. You're always going to have a feat die. So we've got the 12-sided die here. Now, remember, I mentioned this is numbered 1 through 10. We also have the Gandalf rune, and we have the Eye of Sauron rune. The Gandalf rune is an automatic success. The Eye of Sauron rune is not like a critical failure, but it makes this roll a 0. So we also have these pips here, the diamonds that are filled in. Those give us our success dice. Those are the 6-sided success dice. So you roll these together. So as an example, let's say, just for the sake of argument, doing here is going to be exploring. They need to make an explore roll. So they would get their feat die. They would also get their 3 success dice. Now on 6s, there's also the rune here. That means it's a special success if the roll is successful. So let's just roll that. So we would get, a couple of 6s. That's nice on our success. So we're going to total these up. So we've got 18 and 3. So we got 21. So our target number was 16. So this character would have been successful with their explore action. Combat, very, very similar. You're going to actually be rolling with your combat proficiencies. So as an example, swords are 3. So that would be the 3 success dice. Now in combat, we've got a few other things that are going on in the mix. As far as rolling a 10 on the feat die, that will give the attacker some options of different things, different conditions, I guess we'll say. One of them is a piercing blow, which causes a wound. We have some secondary stats. We've got endurance, we've got hope, we have different conditions. Now, in the One Ring, we do not have hit points. We have endurance, and endurance gets knocked down as we take damage in combat. And we also have fatigue from traveling and so forth. If you are more interested in a set of mechanics that's going to utilize hit points, obviously enough, the Lord of the Rings role-playing is going to be more up your alley. So in combat, we have wounds. 2 wounds puts you on death's door. So combat can be pretty deadly, especially fighting various different adversaries. Keep in mind, the player characters are heroes. They're not just farm kids who are making their way in the world for the first time. No, they are an adventuring company. So they are a company of heroes. So they do have a little bit of experience under their belts. These aren't just first level characters by any stretch of the imagination. So something else that's pretty interesting in combat, your combat stance not only determines how the character can attack and who they can attack. So if you're rearward, you would have to be utilizing a ranged weapon, and you can only be attacked by ranged weapons. If you're in the open stance, you can actually rally your fellow members of the company and such. So I like that. I think that's pretty cool. We do have rules here for the corruption of the shadow. Far, far more detail in the core rule book, because of course, what we're looking at here, the rules that are being presented are aimed at getting the players and lore master into the introductory adventure, not covering every single base involved in the One Ring. We also have a journey portion of adventures, because one of the aspects that sets the One Ring apart from other role-playing games is the journey to different places. It's not just hand waving, like, oh, okay, 2 weeks later you arrive. There are also other aspects to the journey. Once again, each of the player characters will have their own particular role within the company. They might be the scout, they might be someone who prepares the camp and does all the cooking and so forth. Then on the back, we get a nice little player aid as far as combat, journey events, sources of shadow, and so forth. So the rule booklet, really well done, and really does a very, very nice job of introducing the One Ring to players and lore masters. Now we have the adventure Overhill and Underhill. This clocks in at 16 pages. And I have to say, it's okay. It's all right. Now, the first starter set did have all of the pre-generated characters as hobbits. So I do appreciate the fact that we have the different ancestries all represented in this starter set adventure with the pre-generated characters. As far as the adventure itself, it's It's okay. I understand it's, mainly introducing the players and the lore masters to the various different steps of an adventure for the One Ring, the journeying, the combat, the exploration, and so forth. That's fine. I get it. It's just not really in depth. Funny enough, this is 16 pages in length. Now, in this booklet, it says it's probably going to take about 5 hours for players and the lore master to make their way through the adventure. I got to be honest, I would be surprised if my gang took any more than 3.5. So there's not a lot of depth to this introductory adventure. I would have liked to have seen maybe a little bit more to the proceedings here. There's, a couple of combat encounters that take place. It's kind of a cool journey event that takes place that I like, but altogether, the adventure's just okay. It's fine. All right, so we've taken a peek at what's inside the box set for the One Ring, Overhill and Underhill. Let's swing on over to the other camera so I can share some final thoughts as well as my review score. I have to say, to my knowledge, I have reviewed every release for the second edition of the One Ring from Free League Publishing. And I've got to say, I've enjoyed every single one. I think they're all really nicely done. Some, of course, I've been impressed with more than others, but all in all, I have not found anything that's a clunker in the One Ring second edition whatsoever. And that's going to be the case here with this starter set also. I think the rules booklet that's included does a really nice job of introducing the One Ring to players and lore masters. Now, it's important to keep in mind there are some folks out there who are not fans of the One Ring mechanics. They feel that it's just a little too rules light, a little too abstracted. Maybe combat isn't as detailed and tactical as they would like. If that's the case, especially if you are someone who's very, very familiar with 5e mechanics, you might want to take a peek at the Lord of the Rings role-playing starter set, Overhill and Underhill, as opposed to the One Ring starter set. Now, having said that, I like the One Ring mechanics. I don't mind that they're fairly rules light. They're very easy for players to wrap their heads around. The reality is, a lot of people are interested in Middle Earth and The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings, and they're interested in role-playing in that world, but maybe they're not necessarily looking to learn a ton of rules in order to do that. Well, then the One Ring second edition is a perfect fit for them. I love the dice. I think the dice are really, really nice. As I pointed out, I think there's a lot of value packed in this starter set, especially since those dice alone carry an MSRP of $22.50. Only thing I'm sort of like, is the adventure. It's not a terrible adventure. It's not a bad adventure. It's just all right. It's okay. I don't think it really shines like a lot of the other content that's been produced for the second edition of the One Ring. So that's the only thing I'm sort of like, about in this starter set. So on a scale of 0 to 10, I give the One Ring starter sets Overhill and Underhill an 8 out of 10. Really nicely done. I love the rule booklet, 3 gens, all that stuff. Only thing I'm sort of about is, once again, the adventure. It's just okay. All right, that is it for this time out. If you liked the video, by all means, please give it a quick thumbs up. Subscribe to the Gaming Gang channel if you haven't already. And if you do subscribe, don't forget, ring that bell. It'll not only let you know when I share videos such as this review, it'll also inform you when my live stream, the Gaming Gang Dispatch, airs Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday evenings right here on YouTube at 7 p.m. Central. Of course, when you're not watching videos on the Gaming Gang channel, be sure to visit thegaminggang.com for our latest in tabletop gaming news, reviews, and a whole lot more you are not going to find here on YouTube. You know the drill. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. Thank you very much for watching. Once again, I'm Jeff McAleer, and until I see you next time, I certainly hope all of you get to enjoy plenty of great gaming with your gang.